Yeah, yeah. All right. Now we are live. Welcome everybody to Sweetcast. The beginning is always nice because there's the ad that plays for everybody. So some people are hearing this, some people aren't. But welcome. This episode is all about editing. And I get this question a lot. And so I brought on a couple people that have been around the block. First, we'll start on the left here. We've got Adam, and you've got a book coming out soon. You've also have you've done quite a bit with comics and all sorts of stuff. So Adam, it's great to have you on.
Hey, thanks for having me, Clint.
Yeah, and we'll get into some of the editing stuff. We already started a great conversation off the air, so we'll definitely continue that. It's good stuff.
We will keep going.
And when are you launching your campaign? Do you have a date set yet?
Yeah, June 25th, launching College of the Dead. It's a 140-page graphic novel, and it tells the story of a college professor manipulating her students during a zombie outbreak to save herself and her daughter. She's pretty merciless and pretty brilliant, and it's a really, really well done, interesting story and graphic novel.
Nice. And I can tell you, I've seen a lot of the pages from it, and it does look really, really fun. It looks like a good book.
Yeah, thank you.
And then we also have Brandon on the screen here. Really glad to have Brandon on. Brandon is my editor, and this is your first. Downcast is the first comic that you've edited. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. I've done a number of other novels, fantasy, science fiction, but yeah, this is my first foray into comics. Not too much different I read plenty of comics myself, so it's been very good, very interesting.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you came on the show. And a cool thing too is I get this question a lot. People are always saying, well, how do you get an editor? Where do you get an editor? There's some options out there. I will tell you, I like Brandon a lot because he edited a novel for me, All for Owen, which was really probably much more work than Downcast.
That is very true.
Pure page count alone. Yeah. But I put a link to his website, which is affordableeditors.com. And that is in the description below. So if you are looking for an editor, why not check out Brandon? The reason I had Brandon edit Downcast is because I had a really great experience with him with my novel All for Owen. And I like working with him. So I wanted to kind of share some of the perspective on editing there. And if anybody has a question of why I'm not showing my face, I don't know the answer to that question. I've been trying to get the camera.
I thought that was your face.
Yeah. I'm just a giant lollipop.
You're an AI.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so I don't know. I keep trying to unplug the camera, plug it back in, and turn it on. It's not working. So, we're just going to go with that. I'm going to say hello to chat first. Renault, welcome. First, Anagrams here, welcome. Frog Smasher, need more editors in CG. I agree, editors are great. Chuck Graham, welcome. What is the overview of an editor's job? I think we'll hit that. We're going to hit that.
That's a great question.
Yep. And Jason Black got a notification. I'm glad. I've been having some problems with YouTube for the past week. I don't like it's been murder. I don't know what's wrong.
You know what's interesting on that, Clint? Just real quick is I was watching one of Ethan Van Sciver's videos, and I was watching something on my phone, and then I was like went over my laptop. It seems like it has a new qualification. And it's confusing looking. It's like I don't know if it was on my laptop or my phone, but there's something where you can identify that you want to see some notifications. So it'll be like, well, you'll get some notifications.
Yeah.
Or you can get all notifications. It's actually not clear which is which. So it looks like maybe they just set everybody to some. And then you have to somehow go in there. I mean, it's YouTube. So you click the bell off, you click the bell back on, make sure that you're following Clinton. You're getting all of the notifications. Yeah,
it's been really weird. The past, my numbers have been terrible. I'm hoping to fix that. I've gone through this before. This is probably like the third or fourth time. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll try to get it working. Yeah, make sure you hit the bell and check if you have subscribed. Sometimes YouTube will just kick you off of a subscription. I don't know why. So yeah, do check that out. I think we're competing with 1 million channels right now, so we'll just go with it.
We are the #1 editing channel right at this moment.
That's right. This is where you go. Oh man, no notifications here. Yeah, that's what I said. I don't know. Yeah, try it again.
It'll work itself out, and we will replay.
Yep. Yeah, we'll go with it. Yeah,
I have a question. I have a quick question for you about editing.
Yeah.
So give me the top 2 or 3 questions you get, or just the one in regards to editing. Is it, do I need an editor? Should I get an editor? How do I get an editor?
Yeah.
What are those questions?
So I would say there are probably 2. One is, how do you work with an editor? They want to know about the process. And then 2 is, where do I get an editor? Those are the 2 big ones.
You mind if I dominate for a bit? Because I have hired editors before, and my role in production, it kind of is editing.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about your history, because I do think this is important for people to understand. You know what you're talking about. Give us a little bit of background.
And in certain realms. All right, so here's my background. So I started publishing comics. The first comic I published was a long time ago. I was actually 15. I published a parody comic called G.I. Jackrabbits, takeoff of G.I. Joe. That was actually just a couple of years into the black and white boom in the mid 80s, created by the success of the Ninja Turtles. And I was in high school. I put the book out. We were to have made about 10 grand on it. The company that distributed it for us, because I didn't know enough to self-distribute to comic shops, went out of business and ran away with our money. But I learned an incredible amount working with those guys, and you kind of live and learn. A couple of years later, I started up a self-publishing Personality Comics, which was a line of biography comics. And we published a couple of hundred of those biography comics. And those were black and white books, kind of a scalable budget. So we had budgets that were as little as maybe, $1,000 a book up to like $3,000 a book. Most of them were independent artists that worked on those, but we actually had occasionally some fantastic young talent, some fantastic older talent, like Jimmy Palmiotti did a 2-issue Madonna series for us that we really have to reprint sometime soon. So he did a biography of Madonna for us. We had this other guy, John Tartaglione, who did the Pope for Marvel and did a beautiful color Babe Ruth book for us, and a couple of other books for us too. So we did biographies. We did a line that was actually really popular called Spoof Comics, which was parodies based on famous superheroes. So we did parodies of Spider-Man called, you could follow the line of thinking here. It was Spider-Femme, Bat Babe, Wolverbroad, which is Wolverine parody, Super Babe, Dare Dame, the X-Babes versus Justice Broads. And it went on and on and on, kind of, nuttily from there. But we actually had some great artists. We had Adam Hughes doing covers. We had some other cool guys on some of the interiors. Kelly Jones did some cover work for us, Dave Johnson. So we were able to get a lot of interesting guys, especially for covers. We'd given Adam his biggest cover rate at the time, and he didn't even believe us when we told him how much we were going to pay him. And he was fantastic. He did like 7 covers for us. Yeah. So after that, we did a line of science fiction color comics called Triumphant Comics, and it was all set off Earth. We published about 50 color issues of those. And then it was kind of like the black and white bust that was about like that from 1995. And then, so I stopped publishing for a couple of years, and then I came back with something called Angel Entertainment, which was black and white books with a lot of covers, multiple covers, kind of like what Dynamite is doing, and some of the other independent publishers are doing. Stay Alive now, 5 covers on one book and things like that. And then I have done some comics separately that were kind of film and TV development stuff with Platinum Studios, the guys who did the Cowboys and Aliens graphic novel. who started out with Malibu. Yeah, it was interesting. And actually, I have some stuff that has never seen development that I want to bring out. And it's going to happen. I'm just going to release like one or two other things first. But we actually I did some work with the heaviest hitter editor-in-chief that comics probably has seen since Stan Lee, and that was Jim Shooter. Marvel Comics is Jim Shooter, and the guy, I mean, just to talk to him for half an hour is to learn a tremendous amount. So he developed a couple of my high concepts, which is really what I do. I'm a high concept guy, and then I will collaborate with a team. So I don't write, I don't draw, a friend of mine who's a good guy in the business, well known in the business, considers me to be an editor. I'm sort of an editor. I'm really kind of like a producer type.
Yeah.
I can't tell people. Jim is I probably am an editor. But in any event, so that's kind of been my background. Then I started developing College of the Dead a couple of years ago, then having discovered Comicsgate, the thing that for me that makes Comicsgate so incredible is the enthusiasm of Comicsgate.
Yeah.
And really, directed so much by Ethan Van Sciver, where, his passion to just to do good stuff, is it's electrifying. It's fascinating. So I mean, it's enough to draw people in. He's entertaining and he's fun, but he's incredibly focused on just doing great work. Yeah. And as an editor, as somebody producing content, you love to see that. And you guys know, producing stuff, if you lose your enthusiasm, you're either going to get garbage or it's just never going to come out.
Right.
There's got to be someone who is anxious and passionate to just produce their vision. And that's what's so much amazing about Ethan. But beyond Ethan, there are, of course, some other guys, too. He just seems to be the sun that holds it all together.
Yeah. Now, you feel, and I will say about Ethan, it turns out we are competing with him right now, streaming.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm sure, like, I don't know. We'll see when he gets out. It could go all night. Who knows? We're really glad for everyone that's watching.
He does a great job.
Yeah. Yes. I do want to make one point here in that there are a couple different kinds of editors. And I think, Adam, where you say that you're kind of a producer and you're kind of an editor, a high level, that is, it's editorial. You're still serving that purpose for sure. And I think a lot of people think of editors at Marvel and DC that are trying to, maintain certain kinds of stories and things like that. They've got all this history to worry about.
This is something. I apologize to interrupt.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Again, you get to be like, I'm in my late 40s now, I'm 49. So there's this drive to be like, look, I've learned a few things. So here's what I've learned. So I'll tell you quick on the editing. First of all, for everyone who's a writer, who's interested in either prose or comics and sequential art, please get the book called Story by Robert McKee. It's fantastic. It's for screenwriting, but he explains the disciplines of specific genres like sci-fi, action adventure. What should a sci-fi story have in it if it's going to be a sci-fi story? Yeah. Not everybody understands this. Downcast is not necessarily a sci-fi story. It's not. And we know that, and God forbid anybody should say that. But the point is, hey, it would be wrong. It wouldn't be correct, and that would be the crime.
Yeah. Well, and people bring it up. This is a mistake on my part, I think, in retrospect, that consumers are going to see it and make a reaction and an assumption, and you kind of have to expect that and work with it. So, for example, like Star Wars, people will say, "Oh, Star Wars is sci-fi." Technically, it's actually more of a Western as far as things go.
It is, but it's science fiction too. So this is now Robert McKee is not, his holiness, but he's damned good. And as writers, he makes your life incredibly easier. Because the thing of it is like this is, you know, it's the same thing that Shooter would say about artists. When we were kids, you know, and it's on my YouTube channel, which I think is at Adam Post Media Group. So, but it's connected to my Twitter in any event. But Shooter came and he looked at everybody's portfolios. We actually had a studio on my YouTube channel. There isn't Shooter on there, but it shows you like the studio artists that we had. And we had like 20 art tables. And those were the guys that would actually draw most of the books, even though we did some freelance too. But like what Shooter would say is like, listen, where's your anatomy? You know, let's see your anatomy first. And then you want to be an impressionist and you want to have all this additional talent. You want to have a unique style. That's fine. You know, but Michelangelo, he could draw any way he would want to draw or paint any way he wanted to paint. Picasso understood anatomy. You wouldn't necessarily see it in his art, but it's there and it's under there. So you see his vision, but it's on top of a frame.
Yeah.
Which is what Comicsgate points out that I see is like, hey, you want to have a political message. That's fine. It's 100% acceptable. You do not throw away the discipline of telling a story, art and text. You do not tell a story just and not have the story persuade you with its message. The message is a part of the story.
Yeah.
You can't have the story be subservient to the message. It's not a story that way.
Right.
And they know it. They know what they're doing. And it's unfortunate that they're doing that.
Yep.
But in any event, that's why I like Robert McKee so much, is because you know what? He gives you the structure. I published hundreds of comic books before discovering Robert McKee when I was starting to do development work with the Platinum Studios guys and met with their editor. And he was like, Adam, you know, you've got a lot of good ideas, but just put some meat on the bones. Here's the structure you should base it on. For your purposes of Downcast, you know, as long as people enjoy it, you don't have to use science fiction modeling, which would basically be science fiction is supposed to be a statement about the future. That's what Robert McKee says, not me.
Yeah.
So when you look at Star Wars, you know, what are they saying about the future? So, or Star Trek, what are they saying about the future?
Yeah. And these are really helpful too. If when you're looking at pitching your comic, even if you're crowdfunding, that's actually kind of more important, the pitch. But it is important to understand these kinds of things. It helps you sell the book. Absolutely. So I want to address something in the chat here about pricing for editing. And this is specifically for you, Brandon. I have my own thought, but I'm curious, why did you choose to price things per word as opposed to per page?
Yeah, absolutely. I responded in the chat as well while we were having the conversation. I was multitasking. It was great.
Oh, great. Nice.
But why not, right?
Yeah.
But basically, it's how much time it takes me to work on something, and I'm really doing this as a hobby. Like the money's not my primary motivation, but I want to be compensated for my time. So when I'm working on a novel, there's countless continuity issues. You find that writers change tenses, or they change their capitalization of certain terms halfway through, and you've got hundreds of pages that you're working through trying to keep everything consistent. It's a ton of work. And so when you do it per word, you're capitalizing on that. And I offer ranges because some material is more polished than others. But when you're working with a comic, I mean, there's more than just the actual dialogue boxes. I guess some writers might use those, but there's scene directions, and when you do it per word, it's still a great deal. But for my time, I mean, it's a minimal time commitment on my part, and really, really fun to do.
And I will say too that because some people write comics differently, and I've explained this before, I write in what is called full script, and so the script was finished before the art. I did make a few changes after we got those first 5 pages done for the Indiegogo campaign, but the script is complete right now, and so I sent that to Brandon. He's looking at both the dialogue and also my panel descriptions, and if I was really wordy on those panel descriptions, that might be a problem actually for the artist. I personally, I like to try and keep it tight, though I have seen some professional writers that are super wordy with those, and I think that's a personal preference. However, if you are a Marvel method kind of guy, and what that entails is just a rough outline of the story, the artist makes the story, and then you go back later and fill in the dialogue. That process is going to be a little bit different. The way that Brandon and I did it is he edited the full script first, and then there's going to be a second part of that, and that is the line edit. And that's, Brandon did line editing on my book All for Owen, and that was really helpful. I've explained with my first novel, I didn't have an editor, and it really showed. It was bad. So All for Owen, I'm really, really happy with the editing on it. And so he'll go back once we have all the words in their balloons. It's been lettered by Eric, and he'll go over and do a line edit. And I should have all of the storytelling bits together first. And the line edit is really just making sure that the words on the page, you're really in the nitty and gritty to make sure that there's not mistakes in the words. But Brandon, I would like to hear from your perspective as the editor. What is your process with editing comics specifically? You can kind of expand a little bit into novels if you'd like to.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the most important thing that you're looking for, and I guess I should say there's different levels of editing, and Clint mentioned that, with the line editing being the most detailed, the gold standard. I mean, it's the most expensive to do, especially for a novel. But there are other forms of editing. Early on, there's sort of a critical analysis, or some people call it developmental editing, where you're really going through and trying to refine the story. So you look at it more from a reader or an experienced reader's point of view, and beta readers can be great for that as well. But you're looking to see, does everything line up? Does this scene resonate emotionally like the author intended? Are there continuity errors? Do all of the character arcs flow naturally? Do they reach a satisfying conclusion? Is the author conveying what they intend to convey? And that has been a lot of fun. That's what we've done with Downcast so far, is that sort of high level analysis. And I think Clint's incorporated much of what I've given feedback on there, but it was really enjoyable. And then later on, the line edit for a comic specifically is going through every single phrase, every single word, looking at grammar, looking at sentence structure, and there are a lot of different things you're looking at, like the length of sentences that affects the flow of the piece. You do a little bit of that with the kind of high level stuff as well. But you're looking at, I mean, it's little tiny things as whether a term like the capital is capitalized each instance, or if the author's inconsistent that way. There's some proofreading involved, obviously, but it's a lot more than that as well. It's just making sure that it can be as perfect as possible. And I've read a lot. I read extensively. That's what really got me into editing, was my love of reading. And you can tell when someone's had a good, polished, edited piece, whether they did it themselves or through an editor, and it shows. And when I come across a piece that I'm reading for fun, and it's just really unpolished, really rough, technical errors, immediately I just disengage. So anyway, I kind of got off the topic there, but that's on my mind.
No, and I will say, with working with an editor, Brandon mentioned that I made the changes that he suggested. I think this is really, really huge. And I actually think this is why you should pay an editor rather than just rely on, like, I don't know, your wife to read it or something, or your friend. That's good. Those are good to have that reaction from a reader. But when you're paying an editor, there's something about like, you want to get your money, you know what I mean? You're paying somebody to be honest about your work. And so it is important. Now, going into Downcast, I knew that I was pretty sure I had some pacing problems with the script. And that seems to be a problem in a lot of the crowdfunded comics that I've seen. Just in that you're looking at usually 48 pages, at a top end, like 92 pages, it seems like. And it's kind of an awkward length for a comic, I'll be honest, because it's not really a short story like a one shot. It's essentially like Downcast. It's like 2 issues worth of story. And so I knew that there was a pacing problem. I didn't know exactly where those problems were. Sending it to Brandon, he really honed in on the scene. I think it was 2 scenes really that were problems. And
I remember the senator one. That was the one that that I thought was. Yeah, I think there's 2 of them, but they weren't. And I'll say, Clay, you did a fantastic job even with the first draft. But yeah, there were some pacing problems.
Well, thanks. And it doesn't matter. Again, I'll say, like, it doesn't mean that you're a bad writer if your editor is telling you to make changes. That means you're a good writer because you're getting help from an editor, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let me say something here. My purpose as an editor, and different editors approach this differently, but my purpose is to help you achieve what your vision, I guess, your creative license, whatever it is you want to accomplish. So I'm not, when I go in and edit it, I'm trying to figure out what is the artist's style, what are they trying to tell, and then how can we do that most effectively? So. I mean, I don't know if I haven't worked with any other editors directly, but I try not to micromanage it. And I make sure that everything I tell you is a suggestion. If you want to override it, feel free to. I mean, it's ultimately your piece. I don't take any offense, but it also allows me to be completely honest without, worrying about giving offense either. Right. I know I'm just helping this project. We're working on it together. It's really, really fun, really enjoyable.
Yeah, if you're not ready to take that kind of feedback and make changes, you might not be ready for an editor. And if you're not ready for an editor, you might not be ready to publish, I'll be honest. So that does take, to learn how to be better at that, joining a writer's group and seeking out critical feedback, I think is important. I really like the way that working with Brandon as an editor, because, again, this is different than Marvel or DC. He's not telling me, hey, your character should act and be like this because that matches up with how those characters have existed. He doesn't do that because this is my story. What he does do is say, this seems, and I know you said this probably a couple times with Downcast, this character is saying something that feels like it's out of character to me. It's inconsistent. And so what I want to do as the writer is be willing to, what's the phrase, murder your darlings, kill your darlings or whatever, and just be like, yep, okay, there's something wrong with this. Maybe I know how to fix it, or maybe I need to readjust it and just cut it out. And so I will say I cut stuff out of Downcast knowing that I'm going to make a Downcast too. So I'd rather have the pacing work and the characterization work and be able to expand the story in the next book. So that's kind of, I don't know, anything else, Brandon, you'd say about how you and I worked together for editing Downcast specifically?
Yeah, well, so far, what I really enjoyed was our dialogue we had after I was done. And this is all specific, this is all based on what the writer wants. But we had a great dialogue about possible ways to retweak some of the arcs and some of the bigger picture ideas. And I thought that was great. Just a back and forth dialogue about what might work and what might not.
Yep, and it's business. I consider Brandon a friend, but for this, it's business, and so it's not personal. We just want to make this story great. So kind of shifting gears, Adam, I really want to hear about how you have worked with editors or how you've worked as an editor, quasi editor, possibly sometimes a producer, how you work either with the editor or with the creative team. What's your outlook on that?
Well, I was going to mention, I was going to ask Brandon about your guys' process. But for example, with the College of the Dead concept, my process was I had this idea where I was like, look, I want to do a traditional zombie apocalypse world where it's what we expect. And, it could, College of the Dead could exist in the Walking Dead world where it could, exist in the same Night of the Living Dead world, same world rules, at least as far as I understand their world rules. And a zombie apocalypse to me it's like a war zone. If you were to go to World War II and then you have some ravaged areas where there's human beings just kind of trying to survive that are trapped in a bad situation, in a bad place. You have some normal human character interaction. The people are still people. They're still hungry. They're still scared, but they also, have other interrelations between each other. This one loves that one, and this one remembers that. And you've got human interaction and basically into a war zone. So that was basically my idea. I had the idea for a couple of the main characters, and you know, having worked with a lot of people over the past, I mean, a lot of freelance talent. The easiest thing for me to know I was going to get good work was to seek out the writer of College of the Dead, which is Stefan Petrucka. And Stefan has written for, he did a lot of X-Files actually with Charlie Adlard at when Topps Comics was doing them, The Artist for Walking Dead. He's done a lot of horror. He's done a whole bunch of stuff. He's worked for Marvel and a number of companies. In any event, he'd been writing comics for years. So I kind of went to him with it and said, okay, hey, Stefan, I just want this to be good. You know, it's incredibly satisfying for me to come up with an idea to do what I think is cool and then to give it to talented people and then let them kind of go with it and just kind of oversee it and make sure that nothing crazy goes off track or that they don't get too creative with it and it becomes something different than what I generally thought it would be.
Right.
That actually happened with College of the Dead early on. And I was new in working with Stefan. It's the first thing that he and I did together. So I didn't kind of know how to communicate that with him. He had a very cool idea. But in any event, so the way Stefan and I worked together, and I was going to ask you about this, Brandon, let's say for new people that want to work with you, were I to come to you with a concept and I would say, hey, look, here's my idea. Let's say we're doing a superhero. It's this superhero. He's a little different in this way. Here's essentially the world around him. There are or there aren't other superheroes. And here's generally what I think happens with the story. Here are his friends. Here are his family, which is all relatable. You know, would you take that as like, give me a 1-page, tell me as much as you can about the character or about any of the main characters, describe them, let's say, and then give me a 1-pager of text of just telling me this is what would happen. I would assume that you'd like something like that rather than somebody gives you a full, no offense to however Clint, you guys already have a working relationship. But in other words, a stranger contacts you and says, hey man, here's 50 pages of full comic script, which might be 100 pages or something like that. And then you're looking at it saying, all right, there's a lot here. Had you thought through this story? And, you know, so if you get kind of a summary to work with, does that help you? When we did College of the Dead, that's kind of what we did. Stefan was so fantastic to work with because he'd worked with so many people in the past. He hadn't worked with me yet. We have a mutual friend that he worked with a lot and I know very well. But he was great with giving me like here's what I see happening in the story. And it was like a page and a half of text. And it was really helpful to me to see like, all right, it looks very good. And then he had something weird happening at the end of the story. And I talked to him about it because what he did was very creative and it was better than what I had in mind, but it broke the world. He was doing something like, I don't know if you've ever seen Z Nation, but Z Nation, it's a zombie series on Sci-Fi or in any event, you kind of never knew what the hell was going on with the world. So as soon as you kind of settled it and started watching it, it'd be like, but the zombies, they can kind of come back to life you know, they can kind of do this and, oh, there's magic involved. And that's, I think a big mistake that people make with worlds sometimes is they will not let the audience kind of settle down and be like, all right, I can accept what's going on. Now let me deal with the human beings in this unusual situation, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they've got to answer that. No, it's good. What you're talking about is more the developmental editing side. There's no script. You just have some ideas, or you have a concept, or you have a outline of a story. And I love doing that. That's fantastic. And the nice thing is I can really be flexible with what an editor needs. So how I work with Clint is different than how I work with, for example, Richard Sanders. I've done a lot of his work. And every author has a different approach. They give me a script in different formats, different levels of completeness, and that's fine. I really do enjoy having a full script if the author knows exactly what they want to do. I love having the full script and working with that and saying, well, here's some tweaks you can make, or a worst case scenario, rethink this whole thing. Maybe you need to make this character stronger. But either way works. It's kind of just different levels of editing, and I enjoy all of it, really.
Yeah. And this is, I'll add here that there is there's a component of an editor being a part of the creative team. And like Brandon, we haven't really talked about this, but I am putting your name in the book, as editor, like you will be listed in the book. And I think it's important. Like when we look at comics coming out from mainstream comics, often, like if you watch Diversity or Comics Matter with your boy Zach, he always talks about who the editor is, because that does matter. It matters in a different way for indie comics like this, but it still matters. And so when I'm writing my script, primarily I have the artist in mind. I'm thinking of Ignacio Lazaro. The colorist is in mind as well, but for me, it's primarily the line artist, because I want, I want to give him enough flexibility because that's what he likes. And so I keep my panel descriptions pretty bare bones, I think, but still make it so that Brandon can read it without seeing the art and still get the idea of what's going on, obviously without the visuals done yet. And he will go over it for a line edit after the whole thing's assembled. But yeah, I think it'll probably work.
I just want to underline what you just said. Yeah. You're 100% right that an editor is a part of the creative team.
Yep.
For a major comics company, like, all right, just not name dropping, but I am a very good friend of Jim Salicrup's, and we've known each other a long time. So Jim was the editor. He was an editor at Marvel. He worked directly under the other big Jim, Jim Shooter. He's the one that worked with Todd McFarlane when they launched Spider-Man #1. And he did the Phoenix Saga. I mean, like, Salicrup was there for all the cool stuff you remember in the 80s. He was there since the 70s. But the long story short is, I know from conversations with Salicrup, the editors, they have a lot of authority, and they're making some creative suggestions. One of the things Salicrup does that I wouldn't really have the confidence to do, I don't think, is he does give people a lot of freedom. But in any event, the editor is a creative decision maker, and they are involved in the creative process and managing the team. So generally speaking, no editor no comics unless people are completely winging it and self-publishing, and they do that. But the editor really does contribute a lot, and you'll see different comics. You'll see a different Spider-Man come out than if Salicrup is editing it versus even somebody great and competent who's editing a comic. The publisher would be less involved. An editor-in-chief, I say this, and it's not to offend anybody, but I don't think Marvel has had an editor-in-chief since Jim Shooter left. They just had guys.
Yeah.
But Shooter's discipline, put hair on your chest, will make a man out of you. Mm-hmm. His discipline was incredible. A lot of people didn't like that, but that's when, again, he created the framework, and then everything else could grow there. Yeah. It was amazing. But yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to say, I think people don't realize how much, like, editors really do. They contribute a lot. And good ones will encourage people. And you also don't want the wrong person. You don't want the wrong guy doing the wrong thing. But they are managers. If they don't have authority, they can't execute something good.
Yeah. And that's exactly right. I think that's where you're in indie comics, it's not like with me and Brandon, he's not going to fire me from a book.
No, but you've given him authority.
You never know.
You defer to him on things.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Adam. And that's why.
That's effing teamwork. That's why things work. Because I mean, when I was starting to talk about like a concept, and Brandon got all goo happy about like. Yeah, because then I could do that's beyond developmental editing, and I can work this. It's like, yeah, because he's got a love for his discipline.
Yeah,
I can see now. I was looking at the beginning, and like, I don't know about this guy, but I was going in with a concept because I think he could take something and make it actually better and good, and tell me what's wrong with it, like just to look at it.
Right.
And that's where I think I've been self-employed since I've been a kid, and always self-employed. So I don't mean to overstep or anything like that. But I would say I don't know what your rates are, Brandon, how you structure things, but maybe you could structure like an hourly overview of like, look, I will spend a half an hour or an hour of you telling me what you're trying to work on, non-disclosure, I won't tell anybody, and I will give you an idea of what's off the top of my mind and what I see, just talking about your concept and trying to help you with your concept, bringing your skill and your love to helping people. You know what I mean? And just look, if you want to, I don't know what your rates are, but let's say it was 50 or 75 or 100, whatever it is, here's your entry fee just to get your relationship going a little bit with Brandon. Sorry about that. I keep forgetting it. But any of that, just to get the relationship going, get people to understand, like, look, the editor he's your mercenary. He's your friend. He's there to fight alongside you. Yep. Right? I mean, that's how you feel about when you go into your next project, Clint, and you're starting with an idea and a blank piece of paper, you've got Brandon on your team.
Right.
And if you need anything with respect to creators or ideas on production management or anything else, frankly, even money, you call me and I'll back you up. So you kind of know, because you're a winner, you make money. That's that.
Yeah.
So, but the point is you put your crew together and then you can get things done. So I don't know if it costs $500 or $2,000 to bring on Brandon onto a project, whatever it is, but you can assess his value to your project if you guys can get, an assessment from Brandon for a certain amount of his time, half an hour, whatever it is, basic consultation. Yeah. You don't need to have anything even written down, right?
Yeah, that's right. And let me reassure people, I'm not charging in the thousands. Like this is fun for me. I mean, my day job is an attorney. Well, hopefully I add that much value, right? But in the end, it's not going to be much to just talk to me. Reach out if you want to do something like this. Have a half-hour conversation. Let's figure it out. What works for your budget and absolutely.
Half an hour special.
Yeah,
$100, $50.
I'd do it for 50, probably less.
50, just don't screw him over. Let the guy make a little effing money.
Whatever. I just love doing this.
Anyone can do you guys in business. Yeah. Again, I'm old, right? 49.
Yeah.
People can do you favors. Take a favor. Don't take advantage.
Yeah.
So if Brandon says, "Listen, I don't care. I'll help you because you're a nice guy. Take it, but don't take advantage. Let him have $50 if that's like enough to be fair. PayPal the guy, and just talk about your idea with him. He'll talk to you for an hour and a half. Probably he's not going to charge you more. He's a great guy, and he wants to help creators. Yeah. Frankly, that's what I would do. And I have to think about what I'm working on because I might have to pick you up on that too.
Well, and I gotta say,
do that. We should be pushing this guy out because he can help a lot of people.
That's what the point I was gonna. The point I was going to make is that Brandon right now has just started this business, and so I would not be surprised if the volume of work he gets makes it so he has to raise his prices eventually. So if you're thinking of, if you're on the fence, I would get in now. I think that's a good idea. Yeah, absolutely a great idea. And Brandon, Adam, you made a lot of really great points. I want to go back to some of those, but first let me check in with the chat because there's a few comments here I want to highlight. Albino Thunderbuns, that's a great name, by the way, says any aspiring creator should be seeking out constructive criticism and be open to it. Pros with long successful careers do the same thing. Good test readers and editors will be honest. You're absolutely right. And I think that needs to be, it's just key to doing something well. And what I like about editors, I like test readers too. What I like about editors is they know something about the craft of storytelling. And so, like, for example, I'll have my wife read a book read something that I've written, and she'll know that something's wrong. but she won't necessarily know exactly what way to fix it. My wife's watching. I don't think that's offensive to say. When it comes to Brandon, he's able to pinpoint what it is that
he's a professional. Wrong. He gives you a diagnosis.
Exactly. And then so it's up to
Brandon's good. You should try him. And if if a relationship doesn't work, then don't do it. But yes, you need a professional diagnosis. And your chat guy, he made a very good comment. It's hard to take criticism, though. So if you can't take criticism, you can't. But you try to develop a tough skin, because you're never going to be great without people saying you suck first.
Yeah.
That's right. I don't know if either of you have ever read the book Mindset by Carol Dweck. It talks a lot about this. You have to picture when you're working on this with an editor, you have to picture it as the product. You're working on the product. It's not a reflection of you personally. You're just trying to make the best script you can. So you incorporate everything you can to make it better, and no offense needed, no offense intended. Pretty good book. Check it out if that's kind of where you're struggling.
Cool.
I want to hit one more comment here. This is from Aaron Olson in the chat. He says, when you explore rates a little more, will you explore what these editors would think of IP, so intellectual property, and profit sharing as a new approach to crowdfunded projects? That's a good question. I'll be honest. When it comes to,
I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you just read the question again? I'm not sure what he means. Could you reiterate it?
Yeah, I think he's asking, as opposed to paying like a flat fee for editing, offer some kind of a cut in the intellectual property or profits after.
Straight up impractical. Just honestly, it's impractical. But that's why you meet this guy Brandon. You can come up with $50. All right.
Yeah.
If he gets you excited about your project, then he'll tell you what next money he needs. You go hustle. You'll make some money. You'll pay the guy a little more money. I don't know what he's going to charge. I don't know how big your project is. But let's be realistic. It's a couple of $100. So no, he can't be partners for life with somebody for a couple of $100.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, as a writer, especially with Downcast, I knew it was doing well. No offense, Brandon, I didn't want to offer any intellectual property rights.
Oh yeah, well, you already launched the campaign. There was no risk. If I had taken an IP deal, no risk.
Brandon, like my superhero idea before, if you work on that, I'll give you 40% of it. Now turn the script back to me. I didn't even tell you.
There you go.
Don't really, honestly, with the IP splitting and stuff like that. Don't do that, man. Especially not with an editor. You're not supposed to do that with a letterer. Maybe you do that with the talent. If you can't, if you're the writer, you don't have the talent. You don't do that. It's not a lot of money. And you also, he seems like a great guy, but you want to be in business with the guy forever. And also, he has to be realistic about it too. He's got to expect you're going to execute and you're going to market your campaign, and he's going, and then it's going to turn into a movie. I mean, look, the best thing is be practical. It's a couple of $100 to get really far with him, even if you can't get all the way with him. You're going to have a much, much better product.
Yep. And I got to welcome all great points. I want to welcome Von Klaus to the chat and his kitty.
Very cool.
Great.
Hello. How you doing?
Great to see you. How's the campaign coming?
We're almost at 19,000, my friends.
That's an exciting project. That is a very cool project.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm so over the moon about it, and everyone's like, "How'd you do it, man?" And like, I keep telling
you spent a couple of months promoting it, and everybody
did.
They were like, "That's actually, it's unique, it's compelling, it's designed well, it's interesting."
Yep.
Yeah. I'll met all my criteria for a project I'm gonna have to put myself into, because when you're in the project, you're in it. You're in it for a long time. So make sure it meets all the things that make you excited, that is a hot product that people are going to be intrigued by, want to purchase. Make sure it's got a good hook and that it's easy to understand. These things aren't, you can't know to do these things. You just have to, or you have to train almost. It's almost like that's an art to itself, not just the story writing, but the coming up with the story, the discipline and the understanding of what stories should I make that are going to bring a lot of people in, that's going to hook them, Yeah.
Your property is the Monster Doctor, right?
That's right.
It's very cool.
Why don't we fill people in case you don't know who this guy is with the cat? This is Von Klaus, and your book is Monster MD. And I got to say something first. I promote a lot of comics on this channel, and we went over yours when you launched and several others, and I try to back as many as I can afford, but my wife watched the stream and she was like, you're going to back the Monster MD book, right? Because I want that. So I said, okay, yes, I am. So yeah, we backed it, and we're both excited to read it.
Thank you, Sweet Wife. Is that her name? Sweet Wife, I guess we'll call her.
you can call her Sweet Wife.
Okay.
Yeah, that works.
Cast.
Yeah. Wife cast. I don't know. Sweet cast. But yeah, thank you. I'm so honored that you guys that it had that hook that made them like it so much.
But you also, I mean, you could love your stuff too much or whatnot. You get some feedback because we've all seen your stuff on Twitter. But also, when something is a hit, too. When something has life to it and it's good. And you could also see when things are like, all right, it's not totally thought out. This is a little amateurish, or just something is just solid good. What you did was stop. But you probably don't do that like every week. Probably like once a year.
Right. Right. Because and your idea, I chew on it for a really long time too, to make it go through these trials before I can figure out if it's got legs for real. You know what I mean? Because it's like getting to know someone over, you don't know if you're going to marry them yet. You got to get in there for a while and be a little hard on your idea, and share it with friends and see their reactions. Let it be something every now and then pitch it to people and test the reaction, give them an elevator pitch, see if they like it, see if their face lights up or not, I've been doing that since 2015 with this story. So
yeah.
I've never heard of a monster doctor before. And you see multiple variations on all sorts of things. So unfortunately, much more. I really have to go and learn a little bit more about it. Things get hectic, but it resonates, and if it resonates, that's good.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
And then you can build your foundation on that.
It started as kind of a challenge to see if I can come up with something that's the opposite of what I see everywhere, because there's monster hunters everywhere. And I'm like, what if someone mended them? What if someone took care of them for once? Everyone is usually just cutting off their heads and blowing them away, And I was like,
and then the first question would be well, why is this guy taking care of monsters? Is he a monster too? Is he in love with a monster? Is there already an obvious explanation for why does the monster doctor take care of these doctors?
You find out in the story.
Okay, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Set it up.
A couple things I need to address chat here. And while I'm addressing chat, hi Eric Weathers as well.
Hello
Thanks
there.
for joining.
I mean, hey there.
So Reno says, congrats, Von Klaus. People are still surprised when creators do the things #CG has been saying to do. Build your audience, have good interactions. Creators out there still not doing it. Yeah, I think there's the whole marketing part of selling your book. It gets overlooked far too often. So a lot of great examples here. Von Klaus is certainly one of those. Aaron Olson says, the money paid for an editor doesn't bother me. I'd gladly pay hundreds for editing on a single book. But for me, it's more of a question of quality marketing and bigger launches. Yeah, and that was in regards to the question about sharing IP. I mean, you could explore for sure whatever you want. As far as editors go, I would just strongly suggest working with an editor in any capacity. I think it's really important. I'm absolutely sold on working with an editor. I do have a question for Von Klaus, because you're kind of in an interesting situation. We're talking about working with editors, and you were picked to work on the next Graveyard Shift. So John Mayland, in a way, did he work as your editor?
I believe Mark and John both gave this, I think Mark started as our prime editor and director of what they wanted, what the vision was, what type of story this was. And Mark gave me some pretty awesome direction on how to open it. Yeah. What the ending needs to be so that it connects to this overarching massive story they're working on. And then John came in with him to edit and look at my script. I thought I was going to have more drafts to do, but they were like, "This is awesome. Thanks." And I was just like, "Okay, I'm going to go have fun this weekend, baby. See ya."
That's awesome.
So yeah. And the art, I think they wanted the artists to get started right away. And I think John and Mark, being bless these men, they believed in us.
Yeah.
You know, it was great.
That's some great credentials to have under your belt for sure. It's really cool stuff. I'm excited to see when that goes down. I have no idea when he's launching Graveyard Shift 2, but
I feel very honored. I literally introduce myself to women now, like, "Hi, what's up? I work for John Malin." It's been an amazing ride to get to learn from them, you know, and work. So I hope that there could be something in the future. We'll see. John said there could possibly be, so that's got me a little excited recently.
Nice. Well, that's cool. Yeah, make sure we're the first to know. You know, who cares about John and his channel? You know.
I'll tell Sweet Wife, and then I'll tell you immediately after.
Yes, yeah. Let her know she needs to be plugged in. Yeah,
she's my fan. She's a fan. I can tell.
Yeah, she is. So Eric, we're talking about editors right now, and actually, I think we've had a lot of really good discussion. This video should be shared. This live stream wide and far, just so y'all know. Eric, in working with an editor. You're an artist. You're also a letterer. You're a letterer.
That's a perfect name.
A letterer. Oh man.
A light editor. Like what's that? A letter.
Combination of letterer, a letterer, and an editor. It's the love child of the two of them, I guess. So Eric, have you worked with an editor as a letterer? To me, it seems a lot like just working with the writer. Like it wouldn't be much different, but I don't know. I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
Sort of. I worked with John Malin, and he was pretty hands-on with edits to the lettering. There were a lot of places where he'd say, "Oh, we need to change this dialogue because so-and-so should be speaking first because they're on this side and balloons will get mixed." So there was more like art direction in that sense too. Yeah. But there were definite changes to the script as we lettered the book. And you know, you always, as a letterer, you always get edits back because people are finally seeing their book for the first time as a comic, and they're realizing how it reads and how it looks on the page. So things change once the letters get hit. So I guess in a sense, I've worked with edits. Not with an editor as a letterer. However, I do have somebody helping me edit Oz. So all this is helping me edit Oz.
That's good. Yeah,
all
separate.
In the chat.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, and Eric and Brandon, you guys have not met, but you're both working on the same book. So Brandon is the editor for Downcast, and Eric is the letterer for Downcast. And I can tell you the way that we're going to work is Eric will do the letters. We've already worked on the script ahead of time, but Eric will do the letters. I'm going to do a pass over it and just make sure, like word balloons are pointing to the right people, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then I would send that to Brandon. He's going to do his line edit. And then I would be the one going back to Eric if there's like, oh, hey, this little thing needs to be changed, a couple of those things. And so it'll be really all working through me. And so I think that's where it'd be different from probably other, again, this is indie comics, exactly. I'm essentially the project manager. So that's how it would work there. But obviously the editing will influence the letters as far as, them being readable, understandable. And
hopefully you get that all ironed out before it gets to me. Let's just lay that out there.
There's always going to be change that.
Yeah, I know. There's always something to fix. No,
they should be paying a letter extra money for that. I mean, no offense, but
yeah, well, it's a good point. And I can say just for the first 5 pages, it's like we look, to prepare it for the campaign. it wasn't extensive. It was only 5 pages after all, but it's like, hey, this balloon's missing a tail, and hey, can you break this balloon up into 2 balloons just for clarity or pacing reasons, things like that. But yeah, I guess it's all part of the process. Is that annoying though, Eric? Would you rather have it be just nailed down and you be done?
No, it's fine. You expect it to happen because, like I said, once you see the book, you're going to be like,
yeah, it's very.
Like you said, that pause, right, for that balloon that needed.
Yep.
You said you wanted to have a pause in that speech.
Yeah,
and it wasn't written that way, so
it's hard to visualize everything.
Yeah,
but with all teams, guys, this is one suggestion. Like as I've put comics together in the past, and actually in my current business working with teams, is communication is just incredibly important. So you tell people, what you want and why you want it, and then before you work with a creative team, try to just be fair to everybody and tell them what's expected and come out with the process first. So just as a rough, just to give it to you, is when we did the College of the Dead book, and we actually do have the whole first issue done and it's lettered and ready to print. But we started with the 1-page synopsis when I hired the writer. I approved that after some changes, minor changes. The writer wrote a full script. I read it. I just decided not to touch any of it because it was 99% perfect. Why mess with the guy? He's putting his heart into it and taking ownership for it. So the writer wrote, we gave it to the penciler, he also inked it. He gave us layouts, very rough layouts, like just beyond thumbnail. Some of the stuff, the writer indicated exactly how he wanted the storytelling. Some of the stuff, he let the artist do the layout. The artist is this guy named Javier Aranda, very good guy. He'd worked for other comic companies before too, like IDW and DC and a couple other companies. But in any event, Javier, he was from Spain and didn't probably understand all of the English, but also he got creative, as artists like to do sometimes. They come up with a better way to do a scene. But that's when you catch it from the layouts. So then that process is layouts. So you get the layouts back from the penciler, and then I was very fortunate in that Stefan was a very hands-on guy. He wanted to approve the layouts himself. A lot of times, and the editor, independent comics or major comics, will approve the layouts and then say, yeah, these are good. Go ahead and execute. And then you're doing like 5-page batches of layouts, which, by the way, if you're managing people, it's good to get a flow of work. You don't come up with a deadline, ideally, that's like, all right, well, here, you're the artist. Okay, well, here's the script. Go ahead and give us back a batch of 20 pages. No, you ideally want to see a flow come in of layouts so that you can then get back to the artist and say, hey, you know what? You didn't get it here. Your reference isn't good here. And again, a writer should provide as much reference, visually, photos, whatever, as he can to the artist. So the artist, knows what you want. If you can give him photo references of scenes and things, so then you get the layouts back, approve the layouts, and then whether it's going to be at the writer level or the editor, and then let the artist execute and finish the pencils and inks or whatever the heck he's going to finish it with, and then it goes to the letterer after it's been through that. But you really want to think through the process. You want to keep it simple, and you also want to know, like, look, how detailed you want to be about the process, because it may be like we've executed comics before in the past, like particularly low budget stuff where it was like, look, the budget is this, it's 24 pages. We are not going to go through layouts and all those. So we just want this thing executed, and then you just come up with a schedule. But if you discuss the process with everyone, like you see, Eric is cool. Eric's not going to be like, hey man, you made me an extra 4 pages. To get your dream to come true, I need this extra money for this. It's not going to nickel and dime you, but at the same time, you do not, again, you take people's favors, but you don't take advantage of people.
Yeah.
You always say thank you, especially if someone does something extra. And you really try not to, waste any of the creators' time when they're trying to get something done. You don't know how hard it is for some people. It's not just the money. It's just time and stuff like that.
I try to get
It's an art.
Yeah,
it's an art, and you have to be able to be social in all the best ways.
Mm-hmm.
Patient, kind, thoughtful. Understanding.
Yeah, you gotta be decent. You want to communicate. Yep. You want to think about. Look, when I was a kid, I did not think about my reputation. You know, when we hired artists and I was like 21 or whatever, and we were banging out black and white books, if you didn't get what I needed done, we would just hire somebody else. And that's it. And that's the way it was. It was harsh. Then as time goes on, you start to realize, like, look, you want to develop a reputation. You want referrals. You want people. You want to act like everything is totally public. So everybody knows that you were a great guy to work with. You always paid. You always communicated. If you didn't have the money to pay, you better call the person right away and say, hey, man, you know what? I owe this money. It's coming up. I got to take care of this. You know, you got to treat everybody, really, really treat everybody the way you want to be treated. Yeah. Because it's a small world. It's much smaller now because of the internet. But when you're up front with people, everybody wants to help everybody else. Right. Who wants to collaborate. You just got to be straight with people and be fair with people. And also, you know, do not ask people for things that they are not appropriate for. You want a high concept for something amazing, you can go to the Monster Doctor guy. I'm also excellent with high concepts. I have some experience with production and stuff like that. Yeah. You want me to execute a full script? Doesn't matter how much money you have or how many favors or IP splits. I can't do that. I'll hire someone to do it. I'll get someone who already is, you know, is a total pro. He'll do it. It'll be perfect. It'll be great.
Right.
You know, but you know, everyone's got their strength, and you really want to play to your strength. The whole purpose of collaborating is so that everyone can have their little complementary skill, you know, really shine.
Yep. Yeah, what a great point. And I just have to say, I tried to talk Eric into doing it for free, but he wouldn't agree to that. So, you know, we had to compromise there. Totally kidding. Hey, I got to show you something. Adam, you gave me some advice, and it was it was wise. It was wise advice. It was wise, and I took your advice. This is
proud of you, man.
Yeah, this represents the other half of the creative team. So here we have the entire creative team for Downcast now, which is really cool. In anyway, these two in spirit. But you told me to get a separate colorist to do.
I was giving you a hard time because I was like, listen, I don't care if this guy has another project to do.
Yeah.
I want your deadline to be met.
Right.
I want to see those pages.
Yes.
I want to know the schedule.
Yep.
Well, you know, he's got this going. I'm like, no, I want the layouts on this schedule. And I'm like, all right, I don't even know Clint. And I'm just like, you know, getting really assertive about it. Because this is producing this stuff is my passion. Yeah. I've published stuff that I haven't all completely read.
Yeah.
You know, because the passion is the high concept and the execution.
Right.
But I suggest this colorist is actually quite good.
He is. And yeah, you suggested to me to get a separate colorist to make sure we could get it done in a timely manner and have the quality be high. I was a little nervous about people being disappointed because the colors look a little different, but I'm actually really jazzed about this because I love Nacho's colors, but I actually think that Damien is a better colorist, or that his, I don't want to say that he's a better colorist, but his colors really pop, and
it's better looking work.
Yeah, and some of that is that he can focus on the colors, and that that Nacho's focusing on the line art. But it was really good advice, so I do appreciate that.
You're welcome, brother. And you know what? The point was just this: is you got a guy, he's doing pencils, inks, and colors, so he can only do a certain volume of work within a certain amount of time.
Right.
Kyle Ritter walks on water and is a total freaking genius. Yeah. And Kyle is doing work on Starblades. He can color an executed page that's faster than whatever. It's very unusual to have that. A normal human being that like is not Kyle, you know, you don't let someone, especially on a project, on your first project, you don't want them doing multiple tasks other than pencils and inks because it is a hell of a lot cheaper. You don't want to break that up. But for colors, absolutely. You've got this guy now. So then if Nacho couldn't execute the whole thing as quickly as you can get, you know, high quality work, it's roughly still within your budget. Mm-hmm. You know, it's a total win.
Right. Yeah, it was good advice, and it was, you know, we got the project funded. It's a little bit less money in my pocket, but I would much rather have I'd rather not have to go till January, which was the deadline we put. We're gonna get finished. I don't want to make any promises, but it'll be. Let's
just say it's sooner because this is a public conversation.
Yes, it'll be done
sooner. It will be late. It will be on time.
Yes.
It will be a great read, thanks to Brandon as well.
Yes,
and it'll be profitable. It's the first book. There'll be other books after this one, and those also will be on time. Whatever Ethan does with his schedule, when he publishes his masterpiece, it's a masterpiece. It is on time. He's promised. He's delivering twice what he promised. It doesn't matter when the book comes out. Everyone's gonna go crazy for his book.
Well,
but for the rest of us, we got to be on time.
Yeah.
But Kyle Ritter is great. It's not Cyberfrog.
Yeah. Kyle Ritter is an amazing colorist. Really, really good stuff. So I don't know. I'm curious. Chat. We've got 27 people here right now. I don't know if Ethan is still streaming or not, but I do appreciate everybody that dropped in. If you have any questions, please put them in chat and at Sweetcast, or you could do a super chat if you feel so inclined. Let me know. I may have missed questions earlier, so just if I did, I apologize for that. But just at Sweetcast, and I'll make sure to answer your questions, or we'll turn it over to the panel. For I don't know, for the future, for editing in the future and making independent comics good, I really feel like editorial is important. This has been a complaint from a lot of critics of mainstream comics. I always hear editorial come up. And so for me, it's been important that is addressed in indie comics. What do you guys think about, I don't know, I guess the importance of editorial, or how you're going to implement that in your own projects?
It is crucial. Stuff has to be really, really good. It does. Or at least as good as it can be.
I want a second pair of eyes to catch what I don't. Mm-hmm. The work is that much better when there's that second pair of eyes that's going to see what I didn't. But you're talking to a guy who had an editor, and now I have to edit it myself because she and I broke up.
Oh, no.
It's true. Yes, but I'm going to edit myself, but I loved having that second pair of eyes. I didn't, but I guess because the campaign launched soon after we broke up, I haven't had time to really let me get an editor, I probably should be looking. So anyway, that's my story at the moment.
Well, if you need an editor and you're looking, I can recommend Brandon Crowther here on the panel.
Yeah, we never got formally introduced. So yeah.
Awesome.
I'm editing Downcast right now and loving it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, hit me up on Twitter.
Yeah. Okay. Are you on Twitter, Brandon?
I don't have a strong Twitter presence actually.
Yeah.
Well,
there's
to get in there.
There are crazy people on Twitter, so I don't blame you, but it has been really nice.
Yeah.
It's all about guys.
It's a good way just to easily contact you. It's a little odd to give out people's email addresses on Twitter.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
So whether you have it or not, but the two of you should definitely talk because you can definitely help flesh stuff out.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
And you're more than even a good second pair of eyes. I'd have you look at anything I was doing.
Cool.
Everybody hold the phone. There is a $4.99 super chat. So I'm going to address this.
You can eat today.
Holding this phone.
That's almost a pizza. Here we go. Unkindness of Ravens. Nice name. For $4.99. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Says, Clint, how do y'all plan on dealing with the sales tax situation in funding? Seems like government is always looking for revenue streams. Well, I did create an LLC, and my plan is to spend and reinvest the profits for Downcast 2. And so I actually am not expecting a huge tax burden because I'm reinvesting so much. But
Clint, his question was sales tax.
Yeah, sales tax.
Not income tax.
Sales tax. Yeah. So sales tax, I talked to my brother-in-law is actually an accountant. I talked to him about that, and he's going to be helping me. But for Utah, where I'm located, if you're selling stuff out of state, you're not paying sales tax on that. If it's in state, you pay sales tax. And so really, I'm talking about a relatively, I don't think it's going to actually be that big of a burden.
Very small. That sounds like a good question to directly ask Indiegogo. They must have had that question before.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. They'll point you to their page that says, hey, man, for sales taxes, this is what you do. And for income taxes, this is what to expect from us at the end of the year. And you kind of do want to know that because it can be surprising.
Yes. Yeah. And that's a good point. And that's why I'm not spending, and it's sitting in a bank account right now. I've only been spending it to pay the creative team to do their thing. And we'll get to printing when we get there. But yeah, that's a great point. I think that's why you really don't want to get caught up in spending that money when you get it. You want to make sure you get the project done. So,
and just so you know too, Clint, your brother-in-law will probably tell you this. Even those guys that are out of the country doing stuff for you, there is some sort of a notice that you're supposed to send them for their tax purposes. And it depends on the country and how they do it. And you're just kind of supposed to. And generally speaking, you can do things the wrong way sometimes and you get away with it 9 times out of 10. And then, just that 10th time, they're like, hey, we wanted to ask you about that one thing. It's like, and then you have to answer. But
I should answer that question. I'm going to do everything 100% legally. I'll say that for anybody listening.
It's the easiest way.
Yes. Yeah. 100% legally. But that is a great question and an important consideration.
Yeah.
That might be worth getting an accountant on actually to do a stream on that, on taxes.
You know what? You and I talked about that.
Yeah.
I won't be coming.
Because when you get in like your 40 grand or something, let's say you wind up doing 100,000, which you should because your book is damn good.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's say you do 100 grand, you do whatever. I'm going to leave it at 100 grand because it's a decent number. That does not mean that you made $100,000 profit, obviously, right? So you're not required to pay income tax on that whole gross number, only on the part that's profit. The question, but it's important to note, like, all right, well, let's say you do 100 grand and then and not on your book, because you're going to ship, I don't know what you're going to ship in 2020, whatever it is. Let's say not you, but plenty of guys will do a crowdfunding project, raise 25 grand, 100 grand. And then like, all right, well, taxes are coming up and I haven't shipped my book yet. And until you ship your book, you actually don't know what all your profits are.
Yeah.
Right.
Y'all better talk to an accountant. That's when you talk to an accountant, because that's money that's prepaid sales. It's not like prepaid. It's not income.
Yeah,
so there's a certain amount that you're responsible to pay, and there's a certain amount you're not responsible to pay. When you're dealing with numbers like $10,000, it's not. We're not talking about big numbers. But like EVS had this issue because he pre-sold a tremendous amount of books, so he had a huge tax liability.
Yeah.
Or did he? Because he hasn't shipped it. He will ship.
Yeah.
But that it starts to become very complicated. Of like he's even announced that he's paid a huge amount of money in taxes.
Right.
And I'm sure he got excellent advice and he has attorneys and stuff like that.
Right.
But as a layman to listen to it, it's like it does get confusing very quickly.
Yeah.
So it's just always good to talk to an accountant and ask questions about like, when do I owe it? Is it when the book ships, or is it when I get the money? And how do I know what my expenses and my profits really are until I've actually delivered? Because maybe they're zero.
Yeah. And Eric had to jump out. He posted a link there. So bye, Eric. And everybody, he has his book up right now, Flying Fortress. It's on Indiegogo. And I think he's pushed into 10K. I think that's where he's headed right now. So yeah, do check that out on Indiegogo for sure. Why don't we do a little bit of shameless shilling? Brandon, why don't we start with you? It's affordableeditors.com. I have that in the description, but tell us a little bit about your service for any of the people who have just popped in.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a full range editor. I do high level editing, developmental editing, as well as down to the nitty gritty line editing, proofreading. Really, my goal is to work with creators to make the product, the comic, the very best it can be. And I love it. I mean, this is a hobby for me. This is not even a second job. It's just a hobby. And I think it's really fun to be part of the creative process. I'm very open. I mean, my experience, my skills are listed on the webpage, affordableeditors.com. But I'm very open to working with creators in new ways. So if you want me to get involved in another type of editing that I haven't done in the past, I'll tell you what my limitations are, give you a sample, whatever it is, offer you a discount. But I just love being involved in the creative process. So hit me up. Links are on the website, email, and I hope I end up working with some people. It'll be great.
You have a passion for editing. It's obvious.
Yeah. And you know, tell me that Clint, you know, whenever you reach out, just tell me Clint's saying, and I'll make sure to give you a little discount as well.
Nice.
So there you go.
You heard it here. Yeah. And I'd say get in, because I think he's going to be probably having more work for sure. So, and I will say Brandon's been a great editor to work with. He helped me with Downcast, edited Downcast. He also edited full, I think it was a 55,000 word novel. And that's intense, man. That's a lot of work. Yeah. He did a great job with that as well. So yeah, do check out affordableeditors.com. And then Vaughn Klaus, Monster MD, give us your pitch.
Hi guys, I'm Vaughn and I'm a nobody, but I've got this great book that might make me somebody. It's called Monster MD. It's a story about a doctor to the local monsters and his invisible surgical assistant, Heidi H. Hyde, getting into crazy misadventures of monster mending. In this story, this doctor wants out. He doesn't know if he's got the stomach for it anymore, or just the insane death wish, because he almost gets eaten by his patients every other Tuesday night, you know? So his invisible surgical assistant, Heidi, gets kidnapped by this masked madman. And we're talking the guy that cut off Dr. Black's arm, ruined his old medical career when he was a, prodigal surgeon on the rise. And now he can't go back to normal medicine. Okay, this guy has ruined his life already once before. Now he has his surgical assistant and he wants to give up on monsters. Is he going to save her? Is he going to be able to overcome his fear of this masked killer? Or is the doctor out for good? Find out. Come check out Monster MD on Indiegogo, you guys.
Yes, cool. Do check it out. And you're just shy of 20K, right?
Oh man, we are so close. I think it's we're almost 19K. We're not very much away from 19K, maybe like $50 or something.
Yeah, that's an important landmark. I don't know. When you hit 20K, there's something about it that it really separates you from, I think, most comic projects that are able to hit 20K. I'm gonna pull up your campaign just so I can post the link too. I'm not very on the ball. I should have done it earlier. While I'm looking this up, though, to put it in the link, I do want to say I was going to say something about Brandon. I can't remember. Comicsgate. I'll say Brandon is kind of outside of the loop a little bit. I don't know if that's. I know you said, Brandon, you've watched some of my videos and stuff. Do you know much about Comic?
Oh yeah, I don't know much about Comicsgate.
Okay. I will say, guys, Brandon isn't into political blacklists or anything like that. Brandon, we need to talk. I've got to fill you in on a bunch of stuff. So, but
don't tell him.
Don't tell him. What am I involved in?
Just make him an innocent editor. He doesn't know what's going on. He's just a nice, normal, innocent editor doing his job.
My point is, he's just an editor that's doing his job, and so he doesn't care about your politics. Everybody here has middle of the road mainstream politics. Well, I don't want to say everybody. That's kind of what's going on. It's just some people don't like that. They want extreme politics in comics. That's the in a nutshell version. So yeah, I'm looking at Monster MD. Adam, you've got a book coming out soon. You mind pitching that for us? Absolutely.
I'm launching College of the Dead on June 25th. And that project is about a college professor who's manipulating her students during a zombie outbreak to save herself and her teenage daughter. Oh, wow. And it's a traditional zombie world that you would think is a zombie world. And what happens if there's a zombie outbreak when you're on a college campus? Well, this is what happens. A brilliant, scheming professor figures out how to save herself and her daughter while everything is basically completely going to hell. And that's the 2-second version of it. We do have a color cover by Kyle Ritter, who is unbelievable. And the book is 140 pages. It's completely done. It took about 2 years to get done.
Yeah.
And it launches June 25th. So we're going to start promoting it and let people know about it.
Great. All right. Yeah, everybody, thank you so much for joining us on the panel. Thanks to everyone in the chat.
I'm sorry, Clint. One thing I should add.
Sure.
I have a website, keepcomicsgreat.com. So keepcomicsgreat.com to get email updates on College of the Dead and anything else that we're doing.
Great. Perfect. Keepcomicsgreat.com. Do check that out. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it. And I will have a video posted again tomorrow. It's a little on the long side, but we'll see how it goes. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.
It's a pleasure.